Hello, my name is Leonard, and this is the Symantec Enterprise Vault 10 for Exchange Administration course, Lesson 16, Monitoring and Reporting on Enterprise Vault. In this particular lesson, we're going to go through and look at the variety of parameters and things that we can be monitoring for Enterprise Vault, and we're going to look at some of the tools that we can use to do that monitoring. One of the main tools that's available that's built into Enterprise Vault is the Enterprise Vault Operations Manager. So we're going to go through and look at how to install, configure, and use that Enterprise Vault Operations Manager. We're also going to look at the Enterprise Vault reporting functionality, how it works with the Enterprise Vault Operations Manager, as well as how we can use it in association with our storage and archiving and additional features. We're going to be using the Microsoft reporting services to perform this reporting action. So we'll look at how to install, customize, and run the Enterprise Vault Operations Manager's reports and other reports. We're also going to be looking at how we perform performance monitoring, which this is going to be performance counters that are available or provided by Enterprise Vault that you can use the performance monitor to monitor. And then we're going to look at performing some common tasks. These common tasks are things that you may do on a daily or slightly off daily routine, but it'll give you some things to consider that as an administrator you may wish to perform on a routine basis. So first is looking at the Enterprise Vault Operations Manager, EVOM. The Enterprise Vault Operations Manager provides us with system monitoring for monitoring our services, our tasks, looking at the journal mailboxes, and also the performance counters that are exposed inside of Enterprise Vault. It is going to give us the ability of reporting on the archiving infrastructure, as well as the Vault storage usage and the Enterprise Vault server operations. These are the functions that are brought to the table with the Enterprise Vault Operations Manager. For an introduction, it offers a web-based scheduled monitoring capability. So when you're going to be accessing the Enterprise Vault Operations Manager, you'll be doing it through a browser type of an application. It's perfect for spotting trends and performance bottlenecks if you're having problems with the Enterprise Vault performing up to your expectations. It uses monitoring agents that are installed on all of the Enterprise Vault servers. This monitored data is going to be held in a SQL Server database that's specific for the Enterprise Vault Operations Manager, and it is going to give us the capability of configuring thresholds and how often we wish to monitor certain items. The basic architecture starts off with a client trying to connect to the web server, the monitoring web app. We will have installed the Enterprise Vault Operations Manager agent on each of the Enterprise Vault servers. When the request for the monitoring web app is instituted, we will go through and connect via the Enterprise Vault Operations Manager database on the SQL Server. The actual monitoring web app will be displayed, and the client will interface that monitoring web app through the Enterprise Vault server that we've configured for displaying the monitoring web app. Prerequisites for the installation: I need to have the Internet Information Services 7.5 or later with the Internet Information Services 6 management compatibility component installed. We must not have locked down the Internet Information Services using any of the Microsoft lockdown tools. We are going to create a separate user for the monitoring process. This separate user doesn't require a mailbox, doesn't need to be a member of the Windows Administrators Group. However, we do want to make sure that this particular user's password never expires. And once we've selected that option, we can typically create it in the Active Directory users of computers and leave the remaining options unchecked. The actual installation process: when you go through and install the Enterprise Vault Operations Manager, you'll be prompted as part of running the setup.exe program to place a check mark for Operations Manager. When you do that, as you continue through the wizard, there'll be a pop-up telling you that it will have to restart certain services as part of the installation process. Now, once you've done the installation, that's not done. We still have to do a configuration. So therefore, under your Enterprise Vault options, you will have a Operations Manager web app configuration option to select. Once you've selected that option, it will prompt you for the domain that you're working with. It will prompt you for the name of the user that you created for the purposes of the Operations Manager and that particular user's password. Once you've done that, it'll bring up a dialog box that tells you what particular changes are going to be made or permissions are going to be granted to that particular user account. These are going to include things such as being added to the IIS_users group, being given access to the monitoring web app folder and the log subfolder, also being given access to the ActiveServerPage.net temporary files folder, and being added to the directory database as the monitoring user. And here, when we use the term directory database, we're talking about the Enterprise Vault directory database. Options that are configurable within our Enterprise Vault environment. For Enterprise Vault monitoring, I can do a summary for the monitoring of the entire site. This summary will present a summary view of the status of all the Enterprise Vault servers in the site. Also, will show you the status of the servers running the index, storage, and shopping services. I can go in and select an option to display the details. If I select the options of the details, it will go through and show you all the servers that are present in the current site and enable the administrator to switch among the different servers to see the details of each individual server. For your Exchange server monitoring section, it can give you a summary of the overall status for the journal mailboxes, including any failures, as well as in the details section, the parameters for each one of the journal mailboxes, and the archive statistics within the last hour. For the configuration settings, you can go through and specify which performance counters to use and which ones you wish to report on. For the Exchange, you can configure Exchange parameters to monitor, and with the monitoring, you can configure the monitoring parameters as well. We'll be going through and showing you some examples of the Enterprise Vault Operations Managers later here in the lesson, showing you each one of these different options that are available. This is, speaking of which, here is an example of the Enterprise Vault monitoring example, showing you the summary tab. It gives you a list of the servers running the Exchange tasks. It also shows you the servers running the indexing service and storage service for the different servers, and based upon the different services they're running, you will have a little icon that represents their current status, either being normal or a warning or critical. Also, if there are particular performance counters configured, as in this example here for the servers running the Exchange tasks, it will show you how many items are marked as normal, how many have warnings, and how many are critical, and when this particular agent updated the Enterprise Vault Operations Manager. This is an example showing the Exchange server monitoring functionality. And in this example here, we've just gone to a different tab within the web interface that is the Enterprise Vault Operations Manager. And for the summary, you can see for this particular Enterprise Vault server that's doing the Exchange archiving, the total, whether or not we have an excessive number of items in the inbox, for the archive pending items, the archivable items, as well as if there's any failed operations. And in this particular case, again, we can see that there's green check marks for all of those different operations, such as copying, storing, doing distribution list expansion, working with the external filters. Have you gone above the maximum size, or is there an invalid journal report? As well as the number of days since the last backup. If it's past the threshold, that will change over. And again, a date timestamp that tells you when this particular value was last updated. And here's an example of going through and being able to specify a variety of different performance counters, such as percent processor time, which is for the generic processor on the Enterprise Vault server. There are also some things that are unique to the Enterprise Vault environment, such as the number of incomplete delete operations. Here for the configuration section is showing you some of the mail and monitoring parameters. The upper left-hand dialog box is showing you some parameters associated with Exchange, such as the number of days since the last backup, the number of failed distribution list expansions. The lower right-hand dialog box is showing you some of the monitoring parameters that can be configured, such as how often the monitoring frequency is going to run in minutes and how long you wish to retain the records for. And by default, that's doing it for a 15-minute frequency and a 30-day retention period. Next, we're going to move on into the reporting. So we're going to look at the Enterprise Vault reporting services. Overview. We can generate reports on the Enterprise Vault operations for performance environment, including for journal and mailbox archiving, as well as your Vault Store usage. You can use these reports then to point towards trends and performance issues. As I mentioned earlier, we are going to be using the Microsoft SQL Server reporting services to do this, and it's going to be managed through the Report Manager web application on the SQL Server. Now, you can also access the reports, though, through the Enterprise Vault Administration Console using the Common Tasks Launchpad. Functionality that's going to be available with the Enterprise Vault reporting includes being able to view the reports on demand, also be able to schedule the reports. And these features are functions of the Microsoft SQL Server reporting services. I can create reports that are either email or saved to a file share. I can export the reports into common formats such as PDF, Microsoft Excel, hypertext markup language. I can also use certain parameters to customize these reports. Now, this will be based upon the individual report. Some reports are customizable, some reports are not customizable. So let's look at how we're going to enable this reporting. You install the Microsoft SQL Server reporting services. You create and configure a required user account and access for that user account. You install or configure the required components for specific reports. You create the audit database, and this is if you wish to be able to have access to the audit reports. You're going to enable the audit logging and select the activities to log. And again, the assumption there is that you have enabled auditing, and then you can configure the actual reporting itself. So we're going to go through and look at these in more detail. Enterprise Vault supports the Microsoft Reporting Services 2005 Service Pack 2 if you have the IIS, which is the Internet Information Services, registered to use the Active Server Page .NET 2.0 version. If you're using the Microsoft Reporting Services 2008, you need to make sure that for the Internet Information Services role that you have the Internet Information Services 6 Compatibility Management Pack installed or configured as part of that. For that user, we said that you needed to be able to create for the Enterprise Vault reporting services. It's configured using the Enterprise Vault Reports Wizard. It can be an ordinary account. It can actually even be the same account that you use for your Enterprise Vault Operations Manager monitoring. For the successful generation of the reports, the user that installs the actual Enterprise Vault reports onto the Microsoft SQL Server reporting services should be the Vault Service account. They should have local administrator rights on the Microsoft SQL Server reporting server, and they should be a member of the Content Manager's role. The Enterprise Vault reports must be installed locally on the Enterprise Vault server. Specific requirements for the reports. If I'm going to be doing Enterprise Vault auditing, you have to install that component in order to be able to see the archived items access and the archived item access trends. For the Enterprise Vault monitoring, you need to have, if you want to see the reports for the 24-hour health status, the 7-day health status, your mailbox archiving health and mailbox archiving trends, you must have the Enterprise Vault monitoring installed. So this is time to show you that in order to see those reports, you must have those particular components installed, or they won't be available in your list of reports. Configuring or creating the audit database. In the administrative console, you right-click the directory and select Enable Auditing. You define a suitable location for the database and the transaction logs. The database doesn't necessarily need, or nor should it probably be, on the Enterprise Vault server. And then you go through and configure the activities to actually audit. In this particular example here, we're showing you the properties associated with the Enterprise Vault server named Server 2. And once you've installed the auditing component, you'll have an auditing tab. To enable the auditing, you place a check mark where it says Audit Entries based upon the following categories. And then you go through and select the individual activities that you wish to log. And remember to restart the Enterprise Vault Administration Service once you've configured the auditing. For more detail on the individual categories and what is being audited as part of these categories, you can use the Enterprise Vault Console Help System. To actually configure the reporting component, this is going to be done on the Enterprise, or correction, it's going to be done on the SQL Server that has the SQL Server reporting services installed. You'll run the configuration options, and you have two different options: to either configure reports and deploy or upgrade the reports onto that SQL Server reporting server, or you can reconfigure the data access settings for the report. As part of this configuration, you will specify the domain and username that you've created for the reporting services and the password. You will specify the SQL Server Reporting Services instance name, the language that you want to support, and then you also have to specify the directory database SQL Server as well. And again, the directory database that we're alluding to here is the Enterprise Vault directory database. You also, once you click the configure button, which in this case here it's shown as grayed out, which means I've already clicked it, across the bottom of this dialog box, it will give you updates on the progress of actually configuring and installing the Enterprise Vault reports onto the SQL Server reporting server. To access the reports from within the SQL Server reporting services realm, you're going to go to the website, http:// whatever the name of the SQL Server that's hosting the SQL Server reporting services, and then you will specify whatever name was configured on that SQL Server reporting service for accessing the reports. And generically, they represent that as the report manager _web app _name. By default, that particular folder will have the name reports. So you would type in www, whatever the SQL Server reporting services are, which in our particular example is DC SQL, and then / reports. Once you do that, you will then see that you have the web browser, and it will show a folder that displays the Symantec Enterprise Vault reports. Once you click on that, it will expand out and show you that we have the language-based reports installed. You might install more than one language. In our particular case, we've installed the English US. And once you click on that, it'll be broken into two separate categories. These two separate categories will be the data analysis reports and the operation reports. And in this particular course here, we'll show you a list here in a moment of the available operations reports. As I mentioned, not only can you access these reports through the web interface associated with the Microsoft SQL Server reporting services, you also have the capability of accessing this through the Enterprise Vault Administration Console. You can go to the Common Tasks Launchpad, you expand the Enterprise Vault Server machines, and you click on the Enterprise Vault Server Management, and then you click on the Run Operational Reports. The reports that are available to you, if you've installed and set up all the audit and different configuration settings, will be listed under your operational reports list, and this shows you a list of all the ones that will be available. For details about the actual information that is in each one of these reports, you can look at the Enterprise Vault Administration Guide. Some example reports that you may see include the Exchange Mailbox Archiving Status Report. The top screenshot is showing you the different configurable parameters associated with this particular report, which includes the site name that you want to report on, the server name, if you wish to sort, also the mailboxes for whether it's Exchange server or Domino server, as well as the archiving state, whether it's been enabled, disabled, or never enabled, and you can also specify the sort direction, ascending and descending. Now again, if this is going to be configurable, you will have this at the top of the report before you actually view the report. Once you click the View Report button as shown in the upper right-hand corner there, it'll actually generate the report, and we've given you an excerpt from that Exchange Mailbox Archiving Status. So you can see for the administrator mailbox, the archiving state is enabled. It shows you the mailbox type. In this particular example, it's a user mailbox. It shows you the provisioning target, which is the whole Exchange organization, and it shows you the provisioning group, which is the whole organization provisioning group. And we talked about those provisioning groups in an earlier lesson. We also have an example report here, which is the single instance storage, which gives you a summary of the savings that are being presented by having your single instance storage configured and set up. We also have another example here of the customizing of reports. In this particular example, we're doing the Exchange Server Journal Mailbox archiving trends, and we have a parameter, and we can go through and specify whether it's archivable, archive pending, and so on. And so if it has an individual parameter, you can specify. In this case, we also have a year and day that's configurable as well. If you wish, you can export a report from the Microsoft SQL Server reporting services, and we have some common types of formats that you may want to have the report in. These include XML, comma delimited, PDF, Web Archive, Excel, TIFF, and Word. So all those are available for actually exporting the results of the report. Inside of the Microsoft SQL Server reporting services, you have something called a subscription. As part of that particular subscription, you can go through and specify when the report runs, how you wish to handle the report as far as rendering it, whether or not you wish to email that report or save it to a particular file share that anybody may have access to. And then you can click that Select Schedule button to open up a window to actually specify the schedule for running the report. Now we're going to move on into the monitoring of performance of your Enterprise Vault environment, and we'll look at how to configure automatic monitoring for certain specific properties. First, the performance monitoring overview. There's two different mechanisms available. You can go into your site properties on the monitoring tab, and we'll look at an example of that here in a moment, and select it up for the monitoring tab what you specifically wish to monitor. You also can integrate it with additional monitoring tools such as the Microsoft's Operations Manager, or MOM, or the System Center Operations Manager, SCOM. For configuring the site monitoring, you open up the properties of the site. In our example here, we have the property page for a site, EV Site 1, and we've gone to the monitoring tab. We have a listing there of the different alerts that you can monitor for. You also have the ability of changing the threshold, the frequency, and when you want monitoring to start. Now, there is something a little bit unique with this particular dialog box that's different from most of the other dialog boxes we use. Typically, we would see like a modify button, or we would double click and open it up to make a change to one of the settings. However, for this particular dialog box, you actually click on the setting. So for example, for the threshold, we've clicked on the Vault Store Transaction Log Backup, and you would actually click on that threshold value and change it by typing in that location. Anything that is set up here, the alert can be noticed by either looking into the application log, or we'll have performance counters that you can look at in PerfMon, as well as going to the Enterprise Vault Administration Console and looking at the status section. If you are going to view it in the status section, the status will show up in one of three different states, either a green check mark, which means there's been no problems detected, and that'll be the text that's displayed. This is displayed when everything that has been checked for monitoring is running and no problem has been identified, which means you haven't exceeded any of your thresholds. Warning will be displayed if a particular monitoring has been disabled for a particular site, and then critical will be displayed if you've exceeded any of your thresholds based upon when that particular threshold was set and monitoring was started. Also, when you do see a critical alert, you will be given a link where you can go online and see an article on some ideas about how to fix that particular problem. We also mentioned that you could integrate the monitoring with a third-party monitoring utility, such as the System Center Operations Manager. There is an Enterprise Vault Management Pack that installs into the System Center Operations Manager, and this is going to contain rules that enable the System Center Operations Manager to monitor critical Enterprise Vault events, and it's going to write these critical events into the application event log. Moving on, we're going to look at some common tasks that you may wish to perform as part of your administrative duties for Enterprise Vault. We're going to start off with a monitoring checklist. You want to monitor system status, and again, whenever you open up the Enterprise Vault Administration Console, you'll see the system status listed right there underneath your directory. Also, you should periodically be checking your application logs. You want to monitor the Enterprise Vault event log as well as the Enterprise Vault converter log. You also want to be monitoring the Microsoft message queues. We're passing information about the archiving process through a variety of different message queues. We'll be looking at those in more detail in the basic troubleshooting lesson. But you want to keep track of those to make sure there isn't a buildup of messages in the message queues. Also monitor the journal mailbox. Periodically connect with Outlook to the journal mailbox and verify that the items are in fact being inserted into the mailbox and correctly being archived and removed from the mailbox. And then also periodically monitor your disks to make sure that you do have enough free space for all the different physical storage locations, such as your Vault Store partitions, index locations, database files, transaction logs, and so on. Now, we mentioned the issue of the message queue monitoring. Here we show a list of the different message queues that are used for the mailbox archiving task. They're labeled A1 through A7, and then there's also a storage archive option. For journal archiving, we have J1 through J4 and the storage archive as well. For the restore process, we have the storage spool and storage restore queues. And then for each individual mailbox archiving task and journal task, there will also be an R1 and an R2 queue. For more details about the individual queues, what they're monitoring, what they're used for, and how to troubleshoot them, you can look at the Enterprise Vault Administrator's Guide, and we also have a separate maintain and troubleshoot course that goes into more detail about troubleshooting the message queues. Maintenance types of actions that you want to perform in your Enterprise Vault environment include maintaining the SQL Server databases. You can typically use the SQL Server Management Studio to maintain these databases. We do actually have a technical article, which we have a reference to in our references, that goes through and give you guidelines for setting up the SQL Server database structure and common maintenance tasks that you want to perform on the SQL Server databases. You want to maintain your Vault Store groups and sharing. Make sure that you have enough space and that you have the correct sharing set up for the transaction logs and the database sizes as well. Check your safety copies. Verify that they are in fact being deleted as expected if you've got things such as after backup or after backup and immediately for journaling. If you do have the partition rollover configured, you want to set up and make sure that you have the right open and close partitions, or if you don't have automatic partition rollover configured, you need to manually go in periodically and close and create new open partitions. You want to be able to maintain the correct provisioning groups and policies, make sure that the right people are being in the right policies and the right provisioning groups. Some additional routine tasks that may come up. You may be periodically needed to stop and restart required tasks and services due to making changes to groups or policies. Verify your expiry and deletion is in fact working correctly. You can do that with reporting, or you can go in and look at the actual items in the archives and see if they're being deleted. You can recover deleted items if a user's deleted items and you've had them set up and configured for soft deletes, which we looked at in an earlier lesson. You can edit the system messages and make updates to them. These include the welcome message, the system message, and the goodbye message. Also make sure that you are routinely reviewing the logs and the reports that are being generated in your Enterprise Vault system to try to head off problems before they occur. In this lesson, we installed, configured, and used the Enterprise Vault Operations Manager. We also looked at how to monitor the Enterprise Vault performance, and we looked at some checklists for common daily monitoring and tasks that you may do for maintenance. For our reference materials, we have the Enterprise Vault Administration Console help, the help for the Enterprise Vault Operations Manager, the Utilities Guide, Reporting Guide, the Administrator's Guide. We also have a separate course called Maintain and Troubleshoot. The Tech 74666 document is a document for maintaining the databases associated with Enterprise Vault. And then you can also go to the Symantec Connect website, which will give you additional help information for dealing with tasks that you may want to do for your Enterprise Vault environment. And this brings us to the end of this lesson.